All right, we are back in session, backstage at Counsel Culture with the one and only Dr. Umar Johnson, where the last session we dove into just really the understanding of child psychology within the school system, within the Black home, specifically about our young Black men.
Yes.
And we probably ended right around the space which leads us into this session is accountability and responsibility.
Yes.
Taking responsibility of our own, taking accountability for what is done and what we have done. You know, we can place blame on the systemic issues. We can place blame on, you know, we're playing the cards that we are dealt. But, you know, as we know, as a people, we have to take care of our own. We have to be responsible for our own. And there's a lot of conversation that's going on. And I feel like this is where you and I, there might be a little bit of discourse.
No problem.
But there's a lot going on online. Everybody got a podcast.
True.
I've seen you on many.
Yes.
And, you know, things go viral. There's
Yes.
a lot of conversation out there. And a lot of it is clickbait. And a lot of it really is to the novice can be somewhat confusing.
I agree.
You know, just because somebody said it on TikTok, now they feel like they got a degree in something.
Yes.
Just because they saw, you know, because it had, you know, 10 million views, therefore it made it factual. And there's topics specifically in our community that I feel like, you know, are distractions. You know, because what we touched on earlier, those are the issues.
Yes.
That's we hit on the root of what we can do to fix our community.
Yes.
But we get caught up in a lot of these conversations, specifically online, about things, in my opinion, that honestly don't matter. I try to operate on a higher frequency. I try to see things for what they are, but also if it's noise, not really pay attention to it. And we get, as a people, and you talked about this a little earlier about being on our devices and things like that. We get so caught up in noise that we don't educate ourselves properly.
I agree.
And I want to touch on that. And it's really is about responsible voices as leaders, responsible voices as, you know, men and women in this community. You're a leader. You're a strong voice that people look to.
Yes, sir.
You know what I mean? Even at times may be controversial, but if anything, one thing you can't deny is that you're educated, you're wise, you carry yourself in a manner that demands respect.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And we don't often see that in our Black men, specifically in media. You know what I mean? As we know, there's buffoonery. There's a lot of things where, you know, we doing it for the bag.
Yep.
There's a lot of imagery. There's a lot of things that, you know, we've all participated in that other cultures don't.
That's correct. That's correct.
And like I said, accountability and responsibility. I'm guilty. I said at times to, you know, I like to have a good time. I like to entertain. I like to joke. I like to wild out.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But if we're talking about, is it food for our community? It's junk food at times. But I feel like there's equanimity that needs to take place. There's balance.
I agree.
You know, we can't be serious all the time. I can't have my fist in the air all the time.
Yes, sir.
Sometimes we want to have a good time, but it's how we have a good time.
Yes, sir.
So I want to unpack all of that. I want to unpack everything from the conversation about, you know, things that people, our community has a strong sense of the Illuminati.
Yes. Yes.
And in my honest opinion, I believe the Illuminati, that term, that idealism, that idea infrastructure is lazy. That's people can place that label and haven't really done the research because they're not far off.
Okay.
You know, systemic issues and things to keep our community down. A lot of stuff that you touched on earlier, but they just quick to label it the Illuminati.
Yes.
And that there's these secret magical powers going on to keep the Black man down, opposed to the infrastructures that we can actually tear down and get rid of. So I want to break that, go from there all the way to the conversation of, you know, our Black male entertainers in dresses.
Yes.
That's a hot topic right now. Cat Williams then brought that up.
Yes. Yes. I saw,
you know,
I saw.
and many others. And, you know, we can even start there if we want to, because I feel like that's a good place to kind of start from, and then we could kind of take it up the mountain. But things like that, to me, I just heard my brother Marlon Wayans say, you know, you know, he doesn't. It's a foolish conversation, and you know, if we want to tap into, you know, our biblical knowledge, I believe it's even, you know, 2 Timothy 2:23 says, you know, at all costs avoid foolish and ignorant conversations because it only creates quarrels and strife. You know what I'm saying? So in that, I tend to stay away from those conversations, but I do understand the purpose of like, all right, let's clear this up. So when we have these conversations, we know what's really, we know, you know, saving our black boys from the school to prison pipeline is a real conversation.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Entertainers and dresses. How real is that?
I think it's real. And the reason I think it's real, Brother Nick, symbols are very important. Our brains are conditioned by what they see and what they hear.
Okay.
The eyes are extremely powerful. On top of that, subliminal suggestion.
Subconscious.
Absolutely is a very powerful way to condition people.
It's been proven.
If nothing else, major black celebrities wearing dresses is sending a message to black boys that blurring the line between masculinity and femininity may not necessarily be a bad thing. And for us as African people, that can be quite problematic for one very important reason, although there are others. Only 1 out of every 4 black women gets married in this country. So then, I have a 12-year-old daughter. I have a 21-year-old daughter. One day, I hope for them to be married.
Right.
If black men who black boys look up to are putting dresses on, they are sowing a thought into black boys' minds about possibly entertaining the idea of dressing the same way.
Okay.
That can lead to a whole bunch of other outcomes that we don't necessarily have to discuss.
Right.
But
I wanted to discuss them.
Okay. But the issue, though, that remains is it is a gateway to transforming culture because you are an icon, a celebrity role model for fatherless males. And if they have been following your masculinity, if you now decide to lead them into an era of femininity, they may follow you there also.
So my question, and may I offer this up? As we know, the masculine and the feminine aren't necessarily designated for male or female.
Okay.
We can have masculine energy, we can have feminine energy. One who is confident in their masculine has no problem understanding and walking in the vulnerability of their femininity.
I agree.
Now, as a person who is so masculine.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
It's proven.
Yes, sir.
Proven in my offspring and my actions.
Yes, sir.
I'm very comfortable around anyone and willing to entertain my femininity.
Right.
To a place where it's safe for me.
Uh-huh.
I have understanding of, you know, I have many friends and family members of the LGBTQIA community, and respect them, love them at a great deal. And it's just, therefore, I'm not a part of that community, but
yes, sir.
I feel like I'm an advocate for that community because I believe, you know, they have the right and to be who and operate the way in which they wish. It's the beauty of living in America. And I'll offer this up as well. As a young man in entertainment, I'm guilty. In my Nickelodeon days, I was in a dress, doing the stereotypical ghetto girl.
Were you a child or an adult at that time?
I was 18. I was, you know. I
might have gave you a pass for that because of the age.
Yeah. But again, in that sense, and probably the only reason why I did it and was very comfortable doing it because I was a fan of brothers that I look up to still to this day, the Jamie Foxxes of the world who did Wanda, the Martins of the world who did Shanae, all the way back to the people that I revere like the Flip Wilsons who did Geraldine. Okay. You know what I mean? And, Eddie Murphy who, you know, the Clumps. So I was at that age comfortable. With saying, oh, this is just I'll take this off and go jump in my Range Rover and go holler at the chicks, and like no problem with that. That was entertainment. I was acting. I was having fun. I was being silly. And in my mind, not thinking that this is an influence on others, not thinking that this is a gateway to all the things that you explained. But as I sit here today, I probably. Like if you ask me to put on, I mean, obviously I'm in a different state of my life. There's no money that you could pay me right now to put on a dress. And that's, a lot of that comes with the word integrity.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And not that I didn't have integrity then, there's probably some understanding that I didn't have about what integrity is and what I stand for as a man today. And, it's just, there's a lot of things that I did and would have done at 19 for money. Okay. That now that I got all the money that I've ever need today, there's you can't even start those conversations.
Understood.
Because I've been blessed to be in a position where now I am my own employer. I am a boss. I am in a sense to where, so there's just certain conversations that I just wouldn't entertain.
Absolutely.
But at the time, I understand to where it's like, we've even heard some of our entertainers in their earlier years, I do this for $1 million.
Yes.
But now they got hundreds of millions of dollars. There's no way in the world. But now that we have, because even I want to tap into this, and I'll circle it all the way back, is, to me, what selling your soul is, because we hear that quite a bit, and that's all that gets associated with the Illuminati and all this kind of thing. Really, that all that is compromising your integrity. And when you break it down to that sense, it's like, what do you stand for, and if you do stand for something, how much do I have to pay you to get that out the way? So that to me is the reason why I would no longer put on a dress.
Okay.
But I don't ridicule or even look down upon some of my brothers who do, because again, I don't know how deep it goes. I mean, I understand the subconscious, but as an individual gets a script and an opportunity or something and they want, and they're there to make a joke, they're there to be funny. Putting on a costume is one thinking, oh man, I'm selling my soul. Or I'm even compromising my integrity, where if my integrity is always in a place of openness and understanding, then I'm not really compromising my integrity. I'm just having fun. I'm going to even your point, what you're saying, I'm understanding the femininity. I'm understanding I'm strong in my masculine. So if I can play in my feminine, and it has nothing to do with my sexual preference or any of these ideas, it's just I'm entertaining. I'm putting forth something to make other people smile and take their mind off the woes of the world to crack a joke. I don't see the issue. Now, like I said, my personal preference today sitting here is a man who's made hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yes, sir.
Just like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm also not going to get out there on a hoverboard or a skateboard and make myself fall for it. But at 19, I did it. You know what I mean? I was doing all type of wild stuff. But as right now, no. So, again, to the brothers who have done it, my hat's off to you, no judgment to you. But I ask you, again, I was long-winded, but sitting on this couch, talking to a professional, did I go wrong? Did I do something wrong by wearing a dress in my younger years?
I want to quote one of our elder Grandmaster teachers, Professor James Small.
Yes.
He said, in response to a question about movies, media, and entertainment, he said, all content has intent. When you sit down and watch an hour and 45-minute long movie,
right,
and you know this better than most, being the successful actor you are, everything that you saw on that final cut, from the color to the background objects, to the pictures, to the clothing, to the conversation, to the symbolism, everything had a purpose in communicating the overall message of that movie.
Yes.
So if we will admit that entertainment is a weapon of indoctrination, In an age where we see a war against not only the life of black men, but the survival of black masculinity, how can a black man putting on a dress not be a problem?
I would bring it back to everything that I just said. What is the issue? And again, because by that means you're telling me you have an issue with understanding the feminine within the black man.
But I want us to make sure we draw a distinction between feminine energy and female sexuality. Because when you spoke earlier about being secure in your masculine and being able to entertain your feminine, I can respect that.
Right.
But we're not talking about entertaining the feminine because we all have that balance within us.
Right.
But masculine and feminine energy is not the same as male sexuality and female sexuality. So for example, certain feminine trait, patience is a feminine trait.
Absolutely.
You see that. Tolerance is a feminine trait. So when Dr. Umar says, absolutely, I can step into my feminine to nurture my queen.
Right.
Nurture my children. Right. I'm gonna step into my masculine to provide for my queen and protect my children.
Facts.
But when we talk about female sexuality,
and the images,
absolutely, for children who consume more television per capita than any other ethnic group in America. So the messages you put in those movies are going to hit our children 50 times harder because they're more dependent on television than anyone else. And they're less likely to have a father at home, Nick. So you're talking about a black male role model who took me this far in my life as a masculine example. And now you're going to put this on, which is now going to force me as an innocent child to entertain all of what can come from putting on that dress.
So then what about the empathy for the community that, because now, probably now more than ever, before we saw, Jamie as Wanda and it was hilarious. You know what I mean? We saw Martin as Shanae, it was hilarious. We saw Eddie and the Clumps, hilarious. But the conversation about being transgender wasn't as loud.
Yes.
The conversation about the rights for the LGBTQ plus community wasn't as loud. So now, though, that imagery actually stands for something more than just a laugh.
My point.
So, but now but in an empathetic form, we want, our family in the transgender community to not be discriminated against. Not to be in a state, because we'll talk about this in a minute too, to be suicidal.
Yes.
Not to be in a state where they're looked down upon in society.
Okay.
Because at the end of the day, it's the body of earthlings. We are all human beings. We're all one.
Okay.
So in that sense, as much as one child or one household may look down upon a black man in a dress, there's other households and communities that see that as liberating. To see that as a way to where, I can breathe.
Okay.
Because if there's levity in what we can all laugh and enjoy, then maybe the severity of someone who is really dealing with those issues, then now there's an entry point for dialogue. Okay. There's an entry point for conversation, because as we know, as much as we talk about all black men, putting on a dress for money, he's compromising his integrity. There's a deeper conversation to when we deal with real issues, as my friend and good brother Dwayne Wade has to deal with as a father, to where now he has a child who is a member of the transgender community. Yes, sir. The same way as, my brother Marlon Wayans, and his children. So now that conversation has layers to it. Okay. Because for one, I love Dwayne and his entire family. I love Marlon and his entire family. Anyone and based off of however someone identifies, I love your child. I love you. And sometimes these examples to where they once looked down upon, it's like, it's looked at as, okay, we can all have this conversation. We can all, I have no problem with my brother entertaining us in a dress. I have no problem with someone having a child from a a transgender lifestyle or community or background. I want to say the correct thing to not offend anyone, but in that sense to where we're all experiencing things to where there is no cut and dry way to say this is right and this is wrong. So to me,
let me ask you a question,
okay.
Nick, respectfully to jump in.
Yeah.
Can ignorance ever be an excuse for irresponsibility? That's one question. My other one, can my humor be an excuse to engage in behavior that hurts the community?
I answer the second question first.
Okay.
Yes, that's a quick answer.
Okay.
Because that's what humor is for. That's what satire is for. I'm going to offer up ideas. I'm going to hold a mirror up to society and say it in a way that's light, that's creating levity, but it's usually extremes.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So some of the best comedians in humor is going to offend. It's going to offend somebody. At some point, whether it's a black joke, a white joke, a skinny joke, a fat joke, a joke about classism, those are the ones like, oh my God, I can't believe he said that. I can't believe she said that. Therefore, humor, most of the time, done correctly, is supposed to make you question.
So then I would challenge you with what happened to our brother Dave Chappelle
100%.
when he was ridiculed by members of the LGBTQ for some stand-up. And there was another comedian whose name I'm forgetting, about a year or two ago, was also ridiculed by LGBTQ. I'm always stand on the side
of the comic because I have been canceled many times for jokes that I've said.
Right, but here's my point. If the transgender community can take issue with Dave Chappelle to the point where some of his shows were canceled because they felt that he used language that was offensive to their community, should not the black community that has been suffering way longer and way harder than the transgender community, why do we not also have the right to say what is acceptable and what is not on the comedic stage?
Because we have levity, because we have understanding in a space, because our humor, to laugh at ourselves has been a sense of healing in many scenarios.
Okay.
If you look at from whether we go prior to Dick Gregory to all of our jokes initially started about, look how hard it is for us.
Okay.
But we still smiling, we still laughing. We going, we laugh to keep from crying. In that sense, that humor does heal, but in order for it to heal, it has to reveal. Again, it has to show you the pain and then say, all right, well, we're gonna show you how strong we are by laughing at it.
I agree. Now, what about when that humor is on display for our children who don't have the intelligence or experience to discern that this is purely being done for comedic purposes? When I go to a public school where the teacher is introducing me to some non-traditional forms of romance and lifestyle, and then I see a prominent black male athlete or entertainer putting on this dress, which is reinforcing a political message that was not laced in humor in the classroom.
Well,
in other words, I'm asking, can you see how that humor can be used
100%
to push certain agendas on innocent black children?
But as a father of many, I'm dealing with this every day. Not even just in that sense, but even because a lot of those jokes and things are about their dad. So I have to do my duty. I have to roll up my sleeves and work even harder as a father to be like, okay, there's the difference. This person was making a joke. This person was actually offended. This is how we deal with this. This is the issue at hand. This is your dad's beliefs. And everybody doesn't agree with him in this sense. So it starts at the home to where now it's my responsibility to say, okay, you heard this at school.
Yes.
Or someone said this, or you were scrolling online on YouTube and you saw this.
Yes.
So now let's sit down and have a conversation about it.
Now, your role as father, processing what they hear, and helping them to filter out the truth from the lies. How important, what you just said, how important is that role as dad? How important do you judge that to be in protecting the innocence of your children? How important is that role as father?
Very.
To filter. Extremely, right? Okay, so understanding that your children benefit from the fact that they have their black father at home. Most of our children do not. So what about the children, Nick, who don't have the filter of Nick Cannon coming home after work every day to interpret the reality that they experience at school and in the community?
Yes, and that brings me to that first question that you asked, because I feel like there's a lot to unpack there
Yes, sir. Yes,
about, does ignorance give you the ability to be responsible, irresponsible?
Absolutely.
That's a weighted question because there's so many things we could be ignorant to.
True.
You know what
True.
I mean?
True.
In that sense, because a lot of times they say ignorance is bliss.
Yes.
And that kind of opens up the idea for,
Yes.
we're talking about just being culturally responsible for our voices, because we could sit here and offer up some real wisdom and cold hard facts that could shake up the world.
The reason I brought it up, Brother Nick, and like you, I love all black people, whether they're gay, straight, transgender, whatever the case may be.
Right.
But my love leads me to a different type of an advocacy than, say, your love. Right? We both love them equally.
Right.
In your love, you say, because of my love, I'm going to advocate for their right to live their lives as freely as they want.
Right.
In my love,
Right.
because I'm looking at the long-term benefit to the community, I'm saying that if we don't put some checks and balances on these types of lifestyles, that can lead to a lot of black women having no husbands, that can lead to a lot of black children having no fathers, that can lead to a lot of brothers who engage in risky behavior ending up losing their lives due to health issues.
Right.
We got the same love,
Right.
but they lead us to two different places. And one of the issues I have when we have these conversations is it always seems like, not with you, but in the general community,
Right.
that there's certain groups who benefit from qualified protectionism. So, for example, the LGBT community, they benefit from qualified protectionism. So even if you're making jokes about them for the purposes of comedy and humor, which historically has been accepted,
Right.
you can be held accountable,
Yes.
and your career can be damaged because of it.
100%.
On the flip side, if we take a look at those who belong to the European Jewish community,
Right.
they do not tolerate jokes about their culture in the way in which African Americans are sometimes expected to do.
Right.
So all I'm saying is some groups are given that qualified protectionism when I think all groups should, and especially us.
I believe we have, though.
You think we have qualified protectionism? In what
100%.
area?
Michael Richards.
Who's Michael Richards?
Exactly. But I mean, when my man Frazier went off at the comedy store saying all kinds, said nigga I don't know how many times, and in a rant,
Okay.
Al Sharpton to Paul Mooney, they was on call, and I mean we don't really hear from Michael Richards anymore from that sense,
Okay.
because that was a while ago, but I use that as an example because I do see he was doing comedy.
Okay.
He was someone who was famous on biggest, Seinfeld, biggest television show before,
Okay.
that we know today. And the community at that time came out and said we will not tolerate this. I mean, and I use that, I just use that as an example because the power of the N-word, we control that. Now
we did. I would say that we did.
I still think we do. If there's not a white person that can come out here and say nigga and not see and we gonna be on their head.
I don't know about that. I think, and to our own detriment, I think we have normalized that word to the point.
Musically,
which means culturally.
Right.
You see?
I think we let them get away with a pass if they singing along at the concert and they say nigga, and we might, Doja Cat might stop the show. But if a person is sitting on a platform like this and saying, and even if it's a joke, I can't stand niggas,
Okay.
that person, it's a rap.
Okay. But they used it in a deliberately offensive manner.
Right.
I'm bringing this up, Nick, because I regularly get text messages from school-age children, their parents, and college students who will send me video clips of white people using the N-word openly and repeatedly in front of black folks without no discretion. Yes.
You ain't no fist thrown afterwards.
Because what I'm seeing, and I'm going to give some of this blame to the hip hop community,
Right.
because I've seen hip hop artists defend, and I've seen non-hip hop artists. So not only them, I've seen black people defend white people's or non-African people's usage of the N-word.
Well, this is where we have to.
And let me say this before you respond to that. I have a big problem with it, Nick, because no word in human history has been used so definitively and intently to disgrace and dehumanize an entire population like that N-word. And then, stay with me, Nick, I've seen white women come and try to argue that calling me Karen is equal to calling you the N-word.
We're not going to entertain that. That's silly.
I've had white women come and say calling me the snow bunny is equivalent to calling you the N-word. No, it's not.
That's ridiculous.
And let me finish with this one line. And the reason it's not, or one of the reasons, is the N-word was codified structurally by the U.S. government to dehumanize African people. Snow bunny, Karen, or any other word was never codified and backed up with the power of an entire government to dehumanize a people.
Now, let me offer this up. And obviously, we know this is going to go viral. We know this is going to create a conversation. But let's call it for what it is. I don't even respect the whole term, the N-word. Because first of all, if we're going to say it, let's just say it. But secondly, if you're going to say it, it's in words. And what we have to offer up, and we got to be real, because you're an orator, you're a linguist, you're one who knows that just and if a slight alteration, in a nuance in a term, you add a comma or something on something, and it's a completely different word in multiple languages. So the word nigger and the word nigga are two completely different words. Even if we want to say nigas, which is how it's written out in the term of Ethiopian, which means king, but I'm gonna only offer this, only say that to say.
How are they different though? The nigga with the nigga.
So we know the word nigger with the hard R is created for
dehumanization purposes.
Exactly. Dehumanization, it is at this point been classified as a racial slur.
Absolutely.
Nigga, from as we know, it was broken down. Even if it started in that space, it actually doesn't come from the word nigger. It comes from the word as, and you can go back and even listen to it from even Dr. King's speeches, is the idea of Negro, who then in the slang terminology, they start to call them Negroes.
Okay.
So it went from Negro to Negroes to nigger. It didn't go from nigger to nigga. But it sounds like that's what we did. But if you do the history, which I've actually done papers on this, we went from Negroes, which we embraced, which just meant black. And it went from Negroes to then in the Southern term, we start saying Negroes.
Okay.
And then we know this.
Let's
Negroes
assume that
this,
history
Negroes
is correct.
That. Even we've heard, like I said, in Dr. King's, Negroes. Instead of saying
Let's
Negroes.
assume that's correct.
And it's factual.
Stay with me.
And then we went to nigger, so there was never, that was not the same term as nigger, the dehumanizing term.
Let's assume your premise is correct.
Okay.
Do you think that our brothers on the street who call each other nigger are doing it because they understand that history? Or did they take the pejorative term that was used to disgrace their race, remix it, and use it? In other words, when our people use the N-I-double-G-A, they are borrowing the N-I-double-G-E-R, and they are simply modifying it for social purposes. The point that I'm making, Brother Nick, is I believe psychologically, it still carries the same stain of dishonor.
Okay. So, and then, because I don't, I'm just offering up.
In other words, if we have a guest speaker, and I say we got a nigga coming to the stage, is anybody expecting an attorney, a Nick Cannon, an engineer, an entrepreneur, a surgeon, a doctor, a psychologist, when you use the word N-I-double-G-A, do you really believe that anybody, black or white, expects the person attached to that title to be something that children can look up to? And if the answer is no, N-I-double-G-A is just as disgraceful as N-I-double-G-E-R.
I can't argue with you. But if I can add an addendum.
Sure.
The community nomenclature, the idea of we've taken something negative, embraced it, took the power out of it, and made it our own, to what we originally started talking about. And that's the only reason because you said we don't have, I forgot how the term that you used to where we police our own. There's some autonomy in our in our culture.
Yes, sir.
We can say, I can say Dr. Umar is my nigga. And that means just in that term that he has the same understanding as me. He goes through the same challenges as me. He understands culturally the things that we both go through. Therefore, I embrace him in a way that I wouldn't embrace somebody else, that I would never use that term. And to your point, wouldn't even say that term in certain company. But because there's an affinity and a compassion that I have for you, I can say that term, like, and you know exactly what I mean.
So let me ask you a question. If we took this racially destructive term, this racial slur that has been used to dehumanize our people for 4 or 5 centuries, and we stripped it of its power and its negativity, re-embraced it as a term of endearment, if you believe that's even possible, because I don't think it is, I think the word always carries its original meaning and its intent and the energy behind it. But if you argue that it's possible to do that, why haven't European Jews taken the K word and did that? Why haven't Latinos taken the H word and did that? Why haven't Asians taken the G word?
They have.
They have not.
No, because first of all, in the same
and
in the same sense, I guarantee you, there's certain terms, and we're not even. There's certain terms even in the way you say it. There's certain terms in the Latino community that they call themselves. That we can't say. Even the word Jew, trust me, I know. There's certain ways and phrases that you say that only they can say.
Has it been normalized in their community as much as nigga has been normalized in ours?
Because we commercialized it. We made money off of nigga.
Exactly.
We making money off of nigga.
Listen to what you said a minute ago. You said they might call each other a derogatory term within culture, but you ain't going to use it. We defend people's right. To call us the N-I-double-G-A.
I'm not going to do that.
but we, not you, but we do it though. You see it?
Yeah.
We defend people's right to do it.
Yeah,
I've seen YouTube videos where psychologically disturbed black folks are begging white people to use the word. I've seen battle raps where the white rappers are using the words.
Yeah, facts.
You don't see that in no other culture, Nick. So my argument is, we suffer from, going back to your mental health theme, we suffer from a post-traumatic slavery disorder that has put us in a position where we are so used to being disrespected that we don't even recognize when we disrespecting ourselves. And I think the continuous use of the N-word is an example of that pathology.
Shall we pause right there? And I'm going into our next, because I know it's heavy in the comments right now. Like, subscribe, do all you're supposed to do. This is one of those conversations. But I'm going to end this session with what I'm actually start with in the next session. Because from everything that we just discussed, the black male entertainers wearing dresses, compromising integrity in other forms as black fathers and leaders.
And not being responsible as to how your symbolism impacts fatherless black boys in the community.
All the way to what we were just talking about, the use of the N-words. I've done them all. So the question would be, am I irresponsible? And if so, how can I correct it? We're going to cover that in the next session here on Counsel Culture, where we, as we always say, we feel together, we reveal together, so we can heal together.
That's right.
Let's get it.